Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Dating After a Divorce podcast. I'm your host, Shadi Curry, and today I want to talk about finding a partner who fits in with your social circle. So, this is a question that comes up quite a bit. And I know from my own experience in my first marriage, it was something that I did not take into consideration when I was choosing my first spouse. And I think it's something that it's easy to miss when you're dating because you just spend so much time with the one person. So when you're dating someone, you're going on the romantic dinners, you're going on walks, you're hanging out at each other's places. And even though you might have a little bit of overlap or go to a few parties, especially for my entrepreneurs, my professional women, those of you who are people of influence, you're leaders, you end up having a life that is somewhat public. Even if you're not in public service, you speak on stage, you are invited to fundraisers, you are invited to events, right? And some of these events, you're expected to bring a plus one, you're expected to bring a partner. And this subject is kind of nuanced. I'm actually going to record this topic in two parts, which is on this one, it's like, hey, finding someone who fits into your social life. And then I'm going to record one about actually meeting someone in person at social events, but that's like for another day. So just understand that this doesn't mean that everyone needs to meet a partner who is social or who goes out or who is willing to be a plus one at an event. Like so many people have so many different arrangements in their relationships. So this is not a requirement. This is one of those topics that I ask my clients, like, listen, is this a thing for you? Is this something that you need? Because you may not be thinking about it. I remember in my first marriage, and in just many women that I've walked through healing from their divorce or recovering from their divorce, or even just like, recognizing their patterns, is that there was a huge mismatch between how I wanted to show up in the world and how my ex-husband wanted to show up in the world. For many women, there's a mismatch between how they show up in the world and how their partner shows up in the world, which can be fine. Sometimes it's like, listen, by personality and by negotiating and compromise, you've both agreed on showing up differently. You've both agreed like, hey, I have all these events. I travel a lot for work and, I'm good with traveling on my own. And that's not something that I really need you to be a part of. If you don't want to be a part of it. Or I have some clients who are like homebodies, like they're like, that being out doing things life is really not for me. And so they don't do it and they don't need a partner who does that. But if you do, if you look at your next 5 years, your next 10 years, and this is something that you're like, yeah, I mean, I don't want to take my best friend as a plus one to weddings. I would love a partner who is my plus one to weddings. I know my ex-husband he did not like going to places because he just, had a lot of insecurities, and that, made those situations uncomfortable for him. So I spent decades really either going on my own for things or passing on events that I'd have loved to go for because it was just too awkward for me to go alone. So anyway, let's talk about how not to end up in that situation. Let's talk about how to end up with someone who is a fit for you, right? Is someone who's a fit for you in your career, your business, your brand, your professional sphere of influence. And if this is a need for you, you really, really want to consider, how will I know that the person I'm dating, that the person I've chosen is the right person, for that? Because it's like, you can ask, you can be like, hey, how are you with social events? And people would say, yes, I'm great with it. I remember early in my dating journey, I dated this one guy and he seemed fine. But, of course, that was early on before I learned everything I know now. And it took me a minute to notice this. Like, so we hung out a lot. We went places and everything was fine. Dinners, whenever we were hanging out alone, things were fine. He would show up. And of course, I knew that I wanted my friends to meet whoever I was seeing and to kind of like give me their thoughts, early in my journey. But like the first few times I arranged for, okay, hey, I have a friend who's in the hospital, it's pre-pandemic. Hey, I would love for you to come with me to visit her. And he would cancel at the last minute. Or, hey, some friends and I are doing this thing, and there's going to be a whole bunch of like people hanging out. Meet up with me there. So he would always be like, yeah, I'll meet up with you there. And then he would cancel at the last minute. I think it took about 2 or 3 times before I was like, hey, wait, what's going on? And at that point, it'd been like 2 months. And I was like, he keeps canceling whenever. It took me a minute to notice because he didn't cancel other things, right? So like, unless you are aware that this is happening, unless you're like, hey, I really want this to happen, it's so easy to miss that, right? So I, of course, eventually broke up with him, and I made that a requirement. I made that something that I was like, I really need to make sure that I see people in all of these different contexts. So I designed my dating journey, and it's something that I help my clients design as well, to include like not just romantic dinners and not just private walks, but like, hey, what are the things that you need in a partner? And when we design a dating journey that includes ways for them to find out, right? Like, how will you find out if this person is actually comfortable in social situations? How will you find out if this person will show up for social situations? Well, one of the best ways to do that is to like invite them to social situations, invite them to the barbecue, invite them to the wedding, invite them to the family gathering. Okay, let's talk about family gatherings real quick. People are always like, well, I don't want them to meet my family because they haven't earned meeting my family, or it's a big deal for them to meet my family, or it's a big deal for them to meet my friends. Okay, I'm going to say something about this, because this is almost like somehow meeting people in your family, meeting people close to you has been turned into some kind of like currency in the dating world. Like if a person meets your best friend, then like you've given them some kind of like honor that they haven't deserved yet. Do not do that. Like none of these situations means any of those things. I often recommend to some of my clients that the person that they're dating, that they meet a friend of theirs, or they let the person that they're dating, I can't talk today, meet maybe a friend or a sibling or some people in their social network, so that they can get that person's impressions of the person they're dating earlier rather than later. And it doesn't mean, now, of course, who you ask them to meet is important. Don't take them to meet your mother if your mother has been waiting for you to get married forever, and if she's going to latch onto them. No, I don't mean that. I mean, having other eyes on your dating journey can be helpful depending on who those people are. In fact, it might be critical. Again, this is very nuanced. It depends on the context. It depends on who you're dating, where you are in the stage of dating, and who it is that you're having give you their impression, or who you are bringing into that event to observe how your potential partner interacts with them. But the point I'm trying to make is that there is no power play here. You're not giving that person you're dating any kind of gift because they got to meet your sibling. If anything, you are the one who's, giving yourself the gift of running your dating journey the way you want to. So in order to make sure that you are choosing someone who fits into your social circle, who gets along with the people that you want them to get along with, creating scenarios where you're able to observe them, where you're able to see how they respond to the people in your life, how they respond to children, how they respond to young people, how they respond to crowds, how they respond to concerts, whatever it is. You can't make any assumptions along the way. You have to think deliberately about what you want ahead of time, and then design the dating journey to include those moments. I did that, and I'm so thankful I did that. Some of the other people that I dated, my husband met people who were important in my life early, not my children, but other adults, not because I was introducing them as, okay, this is my future partner. And it was like, hey, sis, or, sometimes it was a couple. I'd be like, listen, I've gone on 4 dates with this guy, and I don't know, I don't want to go too far before I figure some things out. So can we do a double date? Like I would either do a double date, or I would bring the person I was dating as a +1 to an event. And I would simply tell the people in my life, like my friends and my family, that, hey, we're not partners. This is not my partner. I haven't chosen this person yet, but I do want your thoughts, right? I'm bringing them here so that I can get your thoughts, not so that I can introduce them as the person that I've chosen. And I understand that this can be really tricky for many people just because you've gotten so many questions. You may have experienced a ton of judgment. You may anticipate judgment down the line if, things don't work out with that person. But I think taking a step back to say, hey, no, I'm running my dating journey the way I want, and I'm taking the steps that safeguard me from making the mistakes that I make in the past can be so useful, and it can be so freeing. And you can simply give an answer to the people who, make the assumptions that you don't want them to make. Or if they judge you, then we can process that judgment or work through that judgment, depending on, how it impacts you. So you want to make sure that you are picking someone along the way that is able to go with you to the office party. If that is something that you do, right? Fits in with your friends and family, fits in with you culturally, has similar spiritual values as you, has similar lifestyle values as you. And all of these things are just markers of success in relationships. Now, what those values are and how they show up can be different, right? You can have a similar lifestyle and similar cultural values, even if you are from different cultures. So this is not hey, you can only marry someone from within your culture or within your ethnicity. It just means that you need to observe how your culture expresses itself in your life, and then how it expresses itself in your future partner's life. And if there is an overlap, if there is enough overlap, there might just be enough overlap that you're like, okay, this is what I need and I'm good. Or you might need more overlap than what you are currently experiencing. When my clients pick someone and they go exclusive, we actually do a deeper dive into, so we do a whole bunch of compatibility assessments before they go exclusive with someone. But after they go exclusive with someone, we actually continue that work, not so that they can choose the person or not choose the person, because at that point you've made a choice, even though you can still be like, this, I didn't see some things and this didn't work out. But what we work on at that stage is now more of like, where do we want more overlap? Where do we want less overlap? How can we have conversations with your partner that, let them know what you are wanting and asking them what they want? So this is work that continues throughout the dating journey, and it continues throughout your relationship, actually. Even after you get married, when you're living together, you're going to see other areas where you're going to want to negotiate or have conversations around, hey, we didn't ever talk about this when we're dating, but I'd really love if you did this with me, and talking about how to make those things possible. But I think overall, we've just been educated to just assume, let's just pick someone you get along with, pick someone that that you love, pick someone that you have fun with, pick someone that you're attracted to, and everything will work out. Now, yes, pick all those things. 100%, that definitely needs to be on the list. It's not an either or. It's not someone you're attracted to or is compatible with you. It's a both and. It's someone you're attracted to, someone you have fun with, and you have a lifestyle compatibility that really makes this relationship nourishing for you, that makes this relationship just more effortless. Not that you wouldn't have to work hard, but the hard work is productive. The hard work means that when it comes to your social life, you're able to have conversations with this person. So not that you check the box of every social event you were going to go for, but that you had enough conversations and you observed enough about the person, you experienced a social life enough with them before committing to them, that that you're going to be able to navigate this part of your life with them. Again, this is very nuanced. This is, based on who you are, what your social life looks like, what your lifestyle is like. So you want to not, as much as we don't want to put a round peg in a square hole of like, oh, our social lives don't match. It's not as simple as, oh, he doesn't go out much and I go out a lot, and now we can't be together. It's more nuanced than that. Like, you might have a person who is a homebody, but is like, yeah, no, I love social events. I just won't ever create any of my own, right? But if you have a social event, I'm always up for it. I will always go, I will show up, and I will be there. And this is why it's on a case-by-case basis. I always tell my clients that, like, it's always about the one human in front of you. Like, people love to generalize. Our brains love to generalize. Our brains love to be like, all men are like this. All men who have this are like that. All, people who are like this are like that. Because it's easy. It makes we don't have to think. Our brains don't have to process much if we make those generalizations. But you can't do that in dating. You can't say every sales guy is like this, so that you swipe left on every sales guy on the dating apps. You have to be like, okay, this one salesperson travels a lot, and that's not for me. Well, the next salesperson actually is a salesperson locally. Okay, great. So it's always about looking at the one human in front of you. Just because a person is an introvert does not mean that they are not up for social events. In fact, I know plenty of introverts who are very social. I live with two of them. It's kind of insane. I actually go out way less. I'm an extrovert, and I go out way less than the introverts in my life, it's hilarious. So don't make generalizations. You just want to customize your dating process so that you have created points where you're going to be able to observe each person that you date to see if they're a match for you in this situation. So what you want to do is really start with, the basics of what I always, talk about, having a clear understanding of your life, what your life looks like now, what you anticipate your life will look like in the future, what you want it to be like, and then create a blueprint for how your future relationship will relate to that. Now, of course, we're talking specifically about your social life, right? And once you have that clear blueprint, then it's like, okay, what kind of partner? What would I want my partner to do? What would I want to ask my partner to participate in this life that I have designed, that I am building, that I'm working on? And then take your dating journey and say, okay, I want a partner who loves parties. I want a partner who will go to the club. Although, I work with women in midlife, most of us are not going to the club. So that may not be the best example. I want a partner who will go to the mosque or church or the temple with me. I want a partner who will host dinner parties with me, like whatever that looks like for you. I want a partner who will go to the family reunion, the week-long family reunion where we have 25 children running around and we're camping somewhere. I want a partner who will joyfully participate in that, right? What does that look like? Sit down, and this is where the deep dives and the self-reflection on the dating journey are so important, right? We don't want to leapfrog over the things that are most important to us. And then once you know what all those things are, then think about your dating journey. My clients and I, we will break down their day, what we anticipate. We kind of like, we have a theory. When a woman comes to me and I look at her life and what she's looking for, I'm like, okay, this is probably what it will look like. This is probably how much time it will take and how many people I anticipate you will have to meet to do that. And we just start working off of kind of that estimate that I have based on, what I've observed and what's going on in her life. And so then there are these things that you want. At what point and how will you create events or situations where you can get to see that, where you can get to ask questions? But asking questions, of course, everyone feels like they know how to show up in a social situation. You're not going to ask anyone. It's like, hey, how are you with social situations? Most people are going to tell you, oh, I'm good. Especially if they like you, especially if they want to date you and they want to, go exclusive with you or they want to marry you. They're going to tell you that they're going to check. If you ask them, they will check yes to every box. But you have to create your dating journey in a way that you can see for yourself if they do check the box for what you want. So you customize your dating spots, your places, your events that you go to include, the opportunity to see that, see if they would fit into that. You would then also even go to places. See, like if you are, I had this conversation with a client actually in the last week, and we were talking about her in-person dating. So she's like a whiz with the dating apps. Like she was just crushed it on the dating apps. And we're like, okay, let's open up more portals. Let's, add on your in-person dating. And she is a CrossFit buff, like goes to CrossFit gyms, has for years and years and years. And one of the things we're working on right now is for her to go to the CrossFit games and be like, hey, meet more people who absolutely love what you love. Like Instead of meeting someone and then trying to bring them to your social life, why not meet someone who is already in your social circle, who already is doing the things you want to do? And I'm going to do another podcast episode on that, how to actually do that in person, because what would be easier? It was so easy to just go where those people are already showing up and then meet them there. And so you design your dating activities to include opportunities to meet that person, and to include opportunities for someone that you meet outside of your social circle to participate in your social circle, so that you can get to see, do they like it? Do they hate it? Are they, weird about it? And is this something that we can work out? And so when you create this for yourself, one, it takes away any anxiety that like you wouldn't know. I think one of the anxieties that women have around dating after divorce, if you had bad experiences in the past with dating, is, oh my gosh, I'm going to choose the wrong person. I'm going to keep having these bad experiences. And if I keep going on this dating journey, the bad experiences is going to be after I've committed to someone. But you can weed all of this stuff out. You can weed people out way ahead of time if you just take the time to design your dating process to include what you want. It's like anything else. It's like, getting a job. You don't go apply for the job that you don't want. Or when you go to an interview and your potential boss is interviewing you and you're like, I'm getting a really bad vibe here, you typically would just turn down the job or not go for the next interview, right? It's the same thing. But if you don't know, kind of like what you don't know, if we don't know to look for these things, then yeah, there is a chance that, you meet someone and you miss out on asking the right questions, observing the right things. But even then, like, I want to say this, even then, even if you end up dating someone who doesn't fit into your social circle, like, you can just be like, oh, oops. I went exclusive with you and found out that like, we're not a match. You can change your mind at any time for any reason, because you own your life. So I want to just say, yes, that we want to not waste time with people who don't fit in our lives. And so we can have a process to do that. But in the off chance that somewhere along the way, you miss something and it just doesn't work out, there's a process for also saying, hey, this isn't working and I'm really sorry and I'm out. And that also is a topic for another podcast episode. But when you think about these things ahead of time, it clears up a lot of confusion and indecision. You're able to see a little more clearly if you're a match with someone or not. Thinking about your social circle, your social life, what it is now, what you want it to be, keeps you from settling for less than what you want, right? Keeps you from becoming an overfunctioner who's always dragging someone to a social event, who's always trying to teach the other person how to show up at social events, how to behave, no, we don't want to do any of those things, right? And then you'll have clear opportunities to meet people who already show up in the way that you show up, who already love the kinds of events that you love, and who are willing to negotiate, right? Who have the capacity, the maturity to say, hey, there's this event coming up and, for these reasons, it's not really something I want to do, or these are the kinds of things I don't want to do. And if that's okay with you, then we can be together. And if that's not okay with you, then we can, do something else. So when you go through this process, it really gives you the opportunity to be with someone who is a perfect match for you in your energy level. When it comes to your energy level around social events, one of my favorite stories around this is my client, Linda, who is 63 and super active physically, socially, goes dancing, travels, and we worked together for 6 months, and she met a partner who is 64 and super active. Like, they go skiing, they go to games, they go out, like, apparently it's like 5 nights out of 7, both of them are out doing something, and they both work. It's like insane to me. I'm like, what is happening? I'm nowhere near that. And I think I could handle 2 nights out of a week out, but she met her partner who matches her perfectly. And it's just delightful to know that it is possible. It is possible to meet that person who is the right match for you, whatever level of social activity and social energy that you have. Kent and I spend a lot of our evenings at home. We like to read. in the evenings, right? Just sit in the living room and read a book, or he reads a book and I'm watching TV, or he reads a book and I'm falling asleep early. That's just us. That's the perfect match. But when it's time to go out, we have a wedding next week. It's like, yep, let's go. We've got a wedding. And we'll spend the whole day there and we'll have fun and it'll be amazing. And we're a perfect match for most of our social events. And for the ones that are like not a match, we have conversations about it. So think about what your social life looks like, what you want it to look like, and what kind of person would be a perfect fit for that. Don't leave it up to chance. Don't just be like, oh, what happens, happens. Or don't just fall in love with someone and then find out that your lifestyles are not a match. All right. I want to thank you guys today for your time and attention. If you are a divorced woman, 40 plus, and you want this kind of true match that I have been talking about, where someone matches you in the areas that, matter the most. If you want to start meeting 1 to 2 men every week who are compatible with you, via dating apps, dating in person, social media, networking, blind date introductions. I teach you how to do all of these things, do them safely, do them effectively, and meet your partner in an average of 6 months. So you can schedule a consultation call with me at shadicurry.com. That link is in the show notes. It's spelled SADECurry.com/schedule-appointment. Listen, the worst case scenario is that we spend 30 minutes to an hour together and you're like, not for me. Or best case scenario, you spend that 30 minutes to an hour with me and it completely revolutionizes how you approach dating. It takes away the fear, the anxiety, the second guessing, the worry, and you get to see this very clear path to meeting the partner that you want. So I want to invite you to schedule that call with me, and I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you for your time and attention, and I will see you next time.